Is the 16-inch Heritage Rough Rider revolver actually any better than the 6.5-inch? Today we're going to find out. Welcome back to the channel, crew. Today we're going to be taking a look at some Heritage Rough Rider revolvers. Now, across the board, these revolvers are a pretty good value for the money, in my opinion. Since we are out on the range today, just a reminder to everybody that yes, I know we have to deal with birds and bugs and traffic and moving on. Let's do a little testing with the chronograph. I have it set up down there, and we're going to be shooting some white box Winchester Expert 22. Now this says on the box it's at 1280 feet a second velocity. We're going to run through the 6.5-inch revolver first, then we'll switch over and do the 16-inch revolver. And be aware that my microphone does not typically pick up the muzzle report. $11.21. $10.88. $10.76. $10.81. $11.43. $10.40. So the average velocity we got out of the 6.5-inch barrel revolver was 1,076 feet a second. And our deviation between the lowest velocity and the highest was 103 feet a second. Now, that deviation really has nothing to do with the barrel length. That's a consistency issue with the ammunition. So let's put some rounds through the 16-inch barrel and see how that compares. $11.35. $11.66. $11.74. $11.52. $11.98. $11.84. So some interesting results with the 16-inch barrel. Let's first talk about deviation. Where we had 103 feet a second deviation with the 6.5-inch, we only got 63 feet a second with the 16-inch barrel. Now, I still think we're dealing with luck of the draw and consistency in the ammunition that we're firing today. But I just want to throw it out there that with a longer barrel comes the potential for better powder burn. And so maybe with some of those cartridges that are loaded differently, maybe it's creating a better environment for which they actually burn, so we're more consistent with it. It's just a theory. It's definitely not science. Moving on to average velocity, it's going to be higher, obviously, out of the 16-inch barrel. 1,168 feet a second is our average, and that's right at about 100 feet a second difference, greater rather than the 6.5-inch barrel. That's pretty common. Remember that our 6.5-inch barrel was 1,076 feet a second. So let's move on and do a little bit of inscientific or non-scientific accuracy testing. Question for this video: what are your thoughts and experiences on the Heritage Rough Rider revolvers? So we're going to shoot the 16-inch first here. I'm going to be shooting supported from my little homemade adjustable handgun rest here. Got a video on this if you're interested in potentially making your own adjustable rest, then be sure to check that video out. And I'm going to try to get the most honest shots that I can. The sights on these Single action old school cowboy revolvers are not the greatest. So that's where the rest is going to come in. It's going to eliminate as much of a problem as possible. We're also not really concerned with the point of impact, but rather what size groups we can get. Now let's move on and see what we can do accuracy-wise with the 6.5-inch barrel revolver. Just a reminder, we're shooting at 50 foot here. That is a pretty typical distance for me to shoot, especially with handguns when we're talking about accuracy. Well, it turns out that with those shots, my hold was pretty bad, and the shots all landed high and left, and a few of them were off the paper. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to readjust my hold, and we'll fire those rounds from the 6.5-inch revolver again. So let's take a minute. Let's go down range, check out the targets, and see how we did. So right away, we can kind of see a similar thing that happened during the velocity test, and that was the flyer. Now, could this have been me? Sure. I'm not gonna say I'm perfect. It certainly could. But remember, we had that wild deviation in the 6.5-inch barrel revolver earlier. And so when you're talking about that deviation, could that be the reason that we had a flyer? Well, it certainly could. I have marked out the shots. Notice we've got 5 here, and then the 6th right here where it clipped the paper. And that's why I wanted to redo this group. So we've got 2 groups here we could actually kind of look at. And you notice, with the exception of the flyer, they're fairly similar. Both really close, like I said, with the exception of having more flyers maybe out of that 6.5-inch barrel. Really close to what the 16-inch barrel is doing. So as far as accuracy, at least at 50 foot, they're both pretty doggone close. So now that we've got the velocity and the accuracy test done, let's have a little fun. Let's back up to 75 yards. That's the max that I have available here on my range. Let's shoot at a still target and see what we can do. So here we are back at 75 yards, and we're going to try to hit some still targets down there. Reminder, since we are at the back edge of the range here, we're closer to the highway, and so the traffic noise may be a little bit louder than what you're normally used to. Going to start out with the 6.5-inch revolver. It's going to be a tough shot. We're going to shoot supported here and see what happens. While I'm loading up here, I want to ask that if you like this video, then show some support and give us a thumbs up. That was a hit. 2. So that was 2 hits with the 6.5-inch barrel at 75 yards, or at least 2 that I heard. Let's go to the 16-inch and see how it does. There's 1. There's 2. There's 3. Got her dialed in. 4. 5 out of 6. So I think that is definitive proof that the longer barrel of the Heritage Rough Rider revolver creates higher velocity, is a little more consistent with ammunition, and a little more accurate at both short and long range. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for watching. Till next time, don't forget to chain fire freedom.